His skin was burnt off his face. It was just peeled off his face. And I didn't want to tell him. I didn't want to tell him that he was severely burned. When he followed me around to the house, we were in the house, y'all, 5 minutes, and the house exploded. He shut the door and it blew up. I mean, 1 minute we were inside and the next minute we were outside. What inspired me to start this YouTube channel was I felt like it was just time. It was just time for us women to have a voice, especially the ones that come from my background. You know, we're not heard enough. Um, we're always being silenced. And it's just time for us to release and express the way we feel without judgment. Like I didn't want to see all that Hollywood stuff. That's not what I wanted this channel to be about. I wanted this channel to be about day to day reality, what actually goes on in life. We know what goes on in the hills or in the suburbs and everything, but what actually goes on with parents that are dealing with things that are from the hood, or people that are from the hood, children that has gotten into the hood or into the streets. What goes on in those day-to-day activities. My personal connection to these stories, I can actually relate. I was born in the hood. My mom, she worked 2 jobs to support the family, a single parent home. I jumped off in the streets early. I can actually relate to some of these things that they're talking about, and the ones that I can't relate to exactly their circumstances or what happened with their situation, I can also relate in other areas. I was just sitting at home, and I'm always on YouTube. YouTube to me is the new TV. Over and over and over, I see the men have a platform, but never do I really see that many women get to voice what they actually go through. Um, Coming up, I was always judged. A lot of females didn't like me, but once they met me, they got to know me. They were like, "Oh yeah, she's cool." So I knew that a lot of times their judgment would come from the fact that they didn't know me, or they would be listening to someone else and they didn't know my backstory. They didn't know why this happened or why people were saying these things. And I knew it was always a story that I had to tell. So I felt like it was just time for us women to be heard, us mothers especially. I have to literally take a step back and process the things that I've heard. Um, I know that it seems like that I may know a lot of their stories, but I don't. I don't know majority of their stories, but I can relate. So therefore, I have to sit back and I process what they're saying in the interviews. That's why I just did away with the cards, because I want my own. I want to have my own questions when I speak to them. While they're talking to me, I'm processing what they're saying to me, and that's where I come from when I come off my head with those questions. I do a little research about each guest before I start interviewing them, but most of my questions come from the fact that I can relate to those circumstances. Sometimes after I get through interviewing them, I have to sit back and just think about what they told me and take it all in. And it's just so amazing that we have so many strong women. And now we see we're not alone. We're not alone in this fight. What I want people to understand about the women that I feature on my show, um, we're not here to judge, because everyone has a story and everyone has been through something. You may have been through something that you feel is worse, but in her eyes, she may feel your situation is worse. There's a backstory to every situation that they've been through. And for them to come on this platform and let the world hear their story, then that means that it was time for them to be heard. It was time for their strength to show through all the BS. Each woman that has been featured on this channel has inner strength that is amazing. Just think, most of these women have lost their children. They've either been to prison. Some of them have been on drugs. Some of them have not. Some of them raised their kids alone. Some of them had been married, but they were in abusive relationship. You know, maybe you're just not strong enough to tell your truth. But each story has a backstory. And sometimes that's the root to the problem. Once we hear that backstory and get the full understanding of what's going on, then we have a way that we can help. There's a solution that we can come up with as a community, as a society. How can we begin to heal if we do not focus on the reason why? The problem is we so quick to judge, we so quick to tear down each other. I feel like society ignores misunderstood mothers. Mothers of murdered children, mothers of children that are that are incarcerated. My son is incarcerated right now. It's not the fact that they so much don't understand. They're quick to judge. Oh, she didn't raise her kids, or her kids did this, or her kids did that. But see, the thing is, the old saying says, when you point one finger, the other ones are pointing back at you. Your grass ain't always green. Your doorstep is maybe not swept in front of. Quit judging so much and reach out there and touch a mother and say, hey, how can I help you? Or what can we do as a society to build these kids up? Not just because a woman's child has been murdered doesn't mean that she's a bad mother. One thing about children that I know is once you get to a certain age, no matter what your mother or your father says, you are going to make your own decisions. So it just don't sit well with me to hear people go straight after the parents when their children are murdered. Innocent children can be murdered. A family that had everything, they can be the murderer. It's just once a child reaches a certain age, they're gonna do what they want to do. For instance, my sister, she's a pharmaceutical rep. Me, I went to prison. So, it doesn't matter about, how you grew up. It's where you're going. And it's also the fact that once you decide to accept accountability for the things that you have done, then you can change. In the long run, I hope this channel can reach each and every person's heart, and we can all build as a community to stick together and support one another and help change the direction. Not even just kids, adults. If we can lean on each other's shoulders and be the support system and see, oh, she went through this. This is how she handled this. This is what I can do to get a business started. This is what I can do. You never know the little things that someone may see that can help them in their journey. So that's what I really want this channel to be. I really want this channel to be a support system for us. And most of all, let people know where you started don't have to be where you end up. And I'm a living witness to that. Like I said, I've been to prison twice. And one thing I always knew is that that was not for me. So that's what I want us to be. I want us to be a community to where we support one another. Sweep around your own front door before you try to clock T over here, because baby, you can't clock T over here. The people that come on this channel, we're going to give it to you real, raw, and what actually happens in this world. Y'all may see the grass and the glass and the glitter and glam on this side, but you got to think, on the other side, it's not all glitz and glam. What has surprised me the most about this channel is it's growing so fast. I mean, like the support I see for each guest, the kind words, I really appreciate that, because that's exactly what I was hoping for. Just because you hear the word street moms doesn't mean that I'm saying that the mothers themselves were in the streets. Things that could happen in their life surrounding street activities. Just different things, the channel is it's all surrounding that, but everybody is coming together, and that is what has surprised me. Like, I thought that I was going to get good feedback, but I thought it was gonna be more of a mixed reaction. We rarely on this channel get negative comments. And as I say to those who do, feel like, they want to say something negative, they can simply keep scrolling and move it along. I do allow free speech. However, you just won't get on here and dirt dog anyone. Um, and I just want to say thank you. And this channel is growing faster than what I had expected. And I really appreciate you guys for that. I didn't get into this for any money. I work every day. Um, I already was doing my thing. No, I am not rich. But I am an entrepreneur as well as I do have a regular job. I got into YouTube because I was really passionate about what I'm talking about these women being able to have a voice, because I got tough skin and I'm not scared, but that doesn't mean that they aren't. And it's just time for people to hear our stories. 6 months from now, where do I see my channel? I really see StreetMotherz is doing its thing in 6 months. I feel like we can take this to another level. I feel like it's not just about StreetMotherz in Arkansas. As you see, most of my interviews have been with Arkansas women. I really see this going far past Arkansas, because there's stories everywhere, and I feel like each mother deserves to be heard. um it's a movement, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep moving. We're gonna keep telling our stories. We're gonna keep it gutter. We're gonna keep it all the way raw and real and rare. And I'm gonna say rare because you don't often see mothers being able to express themselves the way we are on this channel. So that's where I see us in 6 months. Shout out to StreetMotherz, shout out to the guests, and shout out to the viewers. Because we're going to keep on moving. It's a movement. A little about me. I speak to a lot of guests about their trauma. But there's things that you guys don't really know about me. My trauma. Um, One particular incident that happened to me, that I feel like God left me here for a reason, was 2008. I was with my first husband, and we were together, and we had started going through some things. I had been hearing back and forth that he was supposed to have messed with a girl, and me and him he wasn't really abusive, really, so much to say. Every now and then we would have a fight, whether he started or I started. Sometimes we would fight. We were both toxic. But he used to drink. And so I decided that I was going to pack up and leave. So he didn't know, and I had found a rental house. It sat on 3 acres of land. It was out in the country. It was really nice house, really nice house. And I decided to leave. So I paid the landlord, got the house, and he allowed me to move in. Well, I waited till my ex-husband was leaving, and I decided to go ahead and leave that day. So I rent the U-Haul. He was gone with his friends or somewhere. So when he came home, the U-Haul was packed full and I was pulling off. Okay, so I ended up leaving. Moved into this house. The people that helped me move, keep in mind, it was just such a rush thing. They were not there to help me set up. They were just put the stuff in, some guys I knew from the neighborhood. So we moved in, and they just put everything in the house. And it was me and my 2-year-old son, which is his son. Like, I really didn't know what to do. And I'm just sitting in this house. So I called one of my friend guys. My friend was like, why don't you call him and help you? So he was like, you know what? He'll help me. He'll help me straighten up everything. When he followed me around to the house, we were in the house, y'all, 5 minutes, and the house exploded. He shut the door and it blew up. I mean, 1 minute we were inside and the next minute we were outside. Clothes were wrapped around the trees 16 feet in the air. The house was just flat. So I remember, you know, it was just smoke. I couldn't see. My hearing, I had lost my hearing for like 30 seconds. And when I could hear, I heard my son crying. So keep in mind, it was just so much smoke. So I'm digging around the rubble. And I finally found my son's leg. So I started patting until I found the top of his body. Now my hearing's starting to come back, so I hear him crying. So I grab him, but I'm just sitting in the rubble with him just in my lap, and I'm just sitting there, like, just sitting there. And the guy that blew up with us, he grabbed my hand. He was like, "Where y'all at? What just happened?" Me being me, of course, I went off like we blew up because we were both in shock. Like, what the hell? Who blows up and still survive? So the landlord stayed like on the back side of us. So he helped me get up, and I had my son, and we walked over the rubble, and we walked out of the rubble basically. So anyway, come to find out, the blast blew out glass windows a mile down the road, and everyone was already running towards where we were. So we made it around to the landlord's house, and they called the ambulance. When I looked at the guy that was walking with me that helped us move, with which he's deceased now, his skin was burnt off his face. It was just peeled off his face. And I didn't want to tell him. I didn't want to tell him that he was severely burned. Especially in the face. So we after that they called when the ambulance got there, they airlifted him to Baptist Hospital in Little Rock. And he went straight to the trauma center. Me and my son, we got seen in the emergency room, treated. My son didn't have a scratch on him. When I tell y'all God was covering him, he had nothing wrong with him. Um, I had a small burn on the back of my neck and one on my back. The fire department said when they came, they just knew that they were coming to recover bodies. So I spent some time in the hospital. I lost everything. The landlord, keep in mind, he didn't want to give me any money back or anything like that. We end up suing him. It took like 3 years to get the settlement, but we finally won. Um, so that was one of my traumatic experiences that I've been through. I was feeling hopeless. I didn't have anything. I remember a lady, and she found me at the hospital, and she was just like, she had been looking all over for me. And so she ended up seeing me coming off the elevator. I was getting checked out, and she just gave me the biggest hug. She invited me to her church. Um, and I went to her church, and she went to this church that was so big, and it was so nice. Um, she found me, and so she helped me get back on my feet. She didn't know me from a can of paint, but she helped us, with clothes. She helped us with furniture. We would get some donations. The Red Cross gave us $500, but I mean I appreciated the five, but keep in mind I have literally nothing. I left the hospital with the hospital pants on. And so I'm the type where I don't like to ask people for anything. And it just took me a moment to get back to my normal self. And I cried and I cried and I cried. I stayed with the friend girl for a few months. But I felt like rushed to hurry up and get not by her, but by myself. I felt like I needed to hurry up and get somewhere because depending on people is just never been me. So I went through an emotional roller coaster with that. Um, and when I finally got myself together is when my husband decided to allow me to come back home to our house because he still had the house. But when I got there, it was like he verbally abused me, like he was cheating. He had something else going on with another girl that he had staying in an apartment of his friend's house. It was just a bunch of. I mean, I shouldn't have came back there because obviously it was dead between us. He really didn't welcome me back with open arms. But all he saw on the news is that I blew up with a guy. So you know the first thing somebody gonna think is y'all was together, but we really wasn't. I literally hadn't even been around the guy but like 5 minutes um before the house blew up. So it was a tough time for me. The next traumatic situation that I went through, which I do have a video where I describe being shot in the head. You can also look on my Facebook page, which is Tiffany Jackson, and there's a video of the injuries, which YouTube won't allow, of course, that to be on there. So it's on my Facebook page. Um, so I'm not gonna go into that. If you guys want to know exactly what that video was about, just go back to my video about me, describing what happened. So I finished beauty school. I'm a licensed nail tech as well. So while I was in school though, and I freshly injured, um, I decided to open me up a salon. That pretty much changed everything for me. I already, like I said, was going through my transition, so I was already changing my mind frame. But it really actually opened my eyes to see the way I raised my older children and older child. Um, my younger child wasn't raised like that. I mean, isn't raised like that. She's not gonna be raised like that. I'm gonna go hard to continue to provide her the attention and the care that she needs, and be a different mother than I was with them. Um, because no, I wasn't the best mom at all. I wasn't a good mom at all. I ran the streets every day. I was in and out of jail. Um, my oldest son, I gave him his first gun and his first pack of dope at 12 years old. And I knew I was in and out of prison. And I told him, you got to learn how to protect yourself and you got to learn how to make you some money. And so, which was horrible. Um, and if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't dare do anything like that. But that's what I did. And so that's another reason why I feel like this platform is designed to for us to support each other and help each other and teach each other. Um so it's a lot of things that I could have taught them, but like I taught them the wrong way, I'm now trying to teach them the right way. Prison taught me a lot. Something that I saw on the prison walls that I never forget was it was a slogan, and it said, "Your actions speak so loud I can't hear your words." And I'll never forget that slogan because it rings true. I don't care how old you are or anything you have going on. That slogan rings true. And basically, what it's saying is you can show somebody, you can talk all day long, but when you showing me your actions, I don't need any words. I can know what you got going on. I can see how you moving for me to really know what you really about. I carried that with me throughout prison. And prison showed me that that's not where I want to be. It also kind of showed me I wasn't running shit. Like before prison, I was used to doing things my way. I ain't want to hear that shit. I ain't want to hear this or I ain't want to hear that. But after going to prison, it humbled my spirit because it showed me like if you want to go home, you're gonna do the necessary things to get there. And I knew that my life was not in prison. I knew that I was not a type of person that needed to be locked up. Um, I knew that I had a future. And so that's the main thing that I focused on, the fact that I need to be here to raise my children. My children's father is deceased, and I have a future. And that's how I knew that it was time for me to get my butt up out of there and do something. My turning point, that I decided I can't live like this anymore, was not even when I got shot in the head. It was not prison. Well, it wasn't Arkansas prison. It was when I went to prison in Louisiana. When I called home one day, my daughter hair was not. I really felt some type of way. I felt like people could have reached out and did more for my child. Her dad was doing what he wanted to do in the streets. Um, I had to sell everything that because I was trying to make bond at first, but after I had all the money to make the bond, they wanted me to stay in Louisiana and wear a leg monitor, where I don't know anyone in Louisiana, so I couldn't do it. So I ended up just saying, you know what, forget it. Louisiana counts every day that you were incarcerated towards your prison sentence, so I'm gonna go on and ride it out. So I rode it out, and it came time for me to get home. And when I got home, my daughter had been between my cousin's house and her great grandmother, which is my ex-husband's grandmother, had been caring for her. But she had all of these like hives on her. Not anything to deal with, her house or anything, but my daughter has really bad allergies and everything. So keep in mind, she was a baby at the time. So no one really knew that she had all of this before I left, rather. So when I got home and I just saw her, and I'm like, what, like, what's going on? And I looked at, his grandmother, and I'm like, she did the best she can, but she's a grandmother. And this is not her child. Like, who's gonna care for my child the way that I need to care for her? And I knew I had been in and out of jail all my kids' life, like all of my older kids' life. I had been in and out of jail. And none of them deserved it. So I made a pact and a deal with myself. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to stay free and raise my daughter the way that I need to raise her. And my main struggle, y'all, it was not drugs. It was not anything like that. It was the fast money. I was used to hustling, used to making quick money. On my bad days, I'm seeing 10,000. That's a bad day. And it was just like, it was just, I mean, some people really do. They had a drug addiction, but mine was money. I had to really break myself and sit there and struggle. And the lights done been cut off. The gas done been cut off. Now the water, I don't always have water now. But the lights done been cut off. The gas done cut off. I done had evictions. I done had repos. But I vowed to not go back to that penitentiary. And that's what I meant. I'm going to do whatever it takes to stay free to raise my child. And that was the turning point for me. My son that I was telling y'all about earlier, yeah, he's a force to be reckoned with. But I got the most humblest son. I mean, he just in the streets. And the thing about it is I the one who introduced him to a lot of the things that he's been introduced to. I take accountability. Um, You can bash me, say whatever you want. But like I said, I taught him the wrong way. I admit that. And I know it was wrong. I know it was wrong now. But I was 17 when I had him. So my mind frame is not what it is now. Now I know better. And so, with everything in me, I talk, I fuss, I preach, and I would not stop. I would not give up until I showed my son and really put it on his mind that it's a better way out here. It's 1,000 ways to make money legally, and I'm bound and determined to show him that. Some people ask me, do I blame myself for the direction my son has went in, because he's in state prison now. When he leaves state prison, he was recently indicted by the U.S. Government, and so he's gonna have to go to the feds. Which, um, I mean, my son. I mean, he's standing on what he got to stand on. He know what he did, and he's gonna take his accountability, because that's something too I've always instilled in them. Do I blame myself? Yes, I do. And I apologize to my son all the time. I introduced him to a lifestyle. His father was murdered when he was 6. So the things that he learned and got off into in the streets was because of me. I just want better for my son. And I'm bound and determined to do what I need to do to show him that. Something that stuck with me while my son's been gone. He told me one time, I was telling him, because he's so used to me having it. He's so used to me being able to just send him money and do whatever when he asked me for something. But that was the hustle in me. So he asked me one time, Mama, can you send me this? And it tore me up because I didn't have it to send, like I really didn't have it to send. And so I explained to him, I'm like, son, you have to understand, he like, well, can you go pick up this money from, somebody in the hood? Now keep in mind, a lot of the people that he's telling me to go pick up money from are people that are my friends that I grew up with. And I'm like, listen, it's 12 o'clock at night. I'm not going nowhere. And I told him, I said, why would you want your mother to go to the hood at 12 o'clock at night where you know that they shooting back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? And so he was like, well, Mama, them your homeboys. So at that moment, I realized my son, he didn't know who he was talking to. So I told him, yeah, those are my homeboys, and I don't care who they are, but I'm not going to the hood. I said, what you need to realize is I'm not the same mama that you had back then. At that moment, I knew my son didn't realize that he was talking to someone different. Everything that I've been through, which is a lot more than what I've disclosed to you guys, is built who I am today. I'm not a weak person at all. I thrive on strength. I'm a little too upfront when I'm speaking to other people sometimes, but I think that's the Taurus in me. However, I've been through so much. I learned to be strong. The penitentiary taught me to where I can be by myself. I don't have to be around anyone. Um, I can entertain myself. I can, when I'm alone, I can think better and clearer. With everything that I've been through, I feel like I'm still standing because I learned strength. I learned how to be alone. I learned how to love myself. Um, and that's something that I'm big on. You don't have to have a man in your life. You don't have to have friends around you every day. It's about you building you and you loving yourself and you being able to figure out how to fix something when something goes wrong. And that's just what I feel like I conquered and I learned along the way. When other women look at me, I hope they see that you don't have to stay where you've been and you can overcome the things that you've been through. You don't have to stay where you've been. It's you that can change your circumstances. It's you that can get motivated and get up off your butt. It's you that don't have to depend on the system and stay there and depend on the system. Okay, I'm not against if you have to get any help, but don't let that be your crutch. Get up off your butt. Let that get the help that you need for right then, and get up and keep it moving. Build on strength, build on yourself, love on yourself. My mom was an entrepreneur, so I learned over the years how to be a hard worker, at the same time how to get my own bag and never depend on a man. um and that's just how it's always been with me. I don't feel like a man paying everything is the way out either. I feel like everybody in the household needs to bring something to the table, because if he falls, what are you gonna do? You need to be able to know how to support yourself if a man isn't around. Um, those are the things that I learned from my mom, and with that, when I got older and after I went to prison, I couldn't find a job. I couldn't find a job anywhere. So that's true when they say it's hard for feelings to find a job. They want you to change, but they don't give us the avenues to change. I mean, we don't have any resources. So what I decided to do, my first venture was I will run errands for the elderly. I would take them out, show them a good time, not take them out like that, but we may go to the park, or I'll go sit out, by the lake with them, or different things like that. So that was my first venture, fresh out of prison. So I did that. I made my own flyers, and I walked the neighborhoods, and I walked the businesses, and I put flyers on cars, and I got my first client. From there, it expanded. So I did that for a while. I've also, like I said, I own 3 salons in Little Rock. I did that. I opened my first one while I was in school, and within that same year, they had grown so much. I opened 2 more. Um, let's see. I've also ran back and forth to prisons, taking people to prisons, and I teach nail classes now. I started a box truck company when I moved to Texas, when I moved to Dallas. I spoke with a few people, and I started a box truck company. And from there, I ran there for a few years. And I was on the road. I really like being on the road. But with my daughter being a teen, I couldn't continue it because my mom was helping me with her, and she was older. Her dad is in the feds. And with raising a teen, I felt that it's really important for you to be there. And so I couldn't do that anymore. So those are some of the ventures that I have done. I currently do storages. I buy and sell storage units. Um, Basically storage wars, kind of what it is. And I go all across the United States, and I do that. So those are some of the ventures that I do now, as well as starting StreetMotherz Podcast, something that I've been wanting to do. I'm in the process of writing a book. Actually, I've already written a book. I just hadn't did anything as far as getting it published or anything like that, which I need to go ahead and quit procrastinating and get that going. Um, but yeah, and I work every day. I work 10 hours a day. So I do the podcast in my spare time, which hopefully one day I can actually, pick it up and do more, because I know that I can bring you guys the content. I have the people, I have the stories, and they're ready to tell them. But I don't have a lot of time. So my time is really tied up with working every day. I'm not rich. I got to bust my ass like everybody else. It's like I said, I refuse to depend on a system or a man. Let's get that straight. Or a man to pay my bills. So it's up to me to hold the fork down, and that's what I continue and plan on doing. Thank you for watching StreetMotherz Podcast.